I want to say right off the bat, I read the book. I enjoyed it a great deal. I was really relieved to find out it wasn't your sort of chick book, men bashing sort of thing. Men come off very well in this book.
Oh, I think so. I think the husband, I tried to make him a fully engaged, full-fledged character.
Yeah.
You know, with strengths and weaknesses, just like the mom.
And the story itself centers around a tragedy and how it affects the dynamic of a mother-daughter relationship. Was that inspired by any sort of true life event?
Well, what it was is I was really interested. You know, it started out with an idea about a car, what it would feel like to be the driver in a fatal accident. And the driver isn't drunk. She's not. She's 18, and she's just not paying attention. She's on the phone, and she hits a pedestrian. And to make it more universal, I started thinking about what would it mean. How do we have blind spots in our personal interactions? You know, how much damage do we do because we're distracted in our real lives?
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of offshoots and little subplots about different relationship dynamics and how people react differently to different sort of tragedies, or how people react differently in general. Some of the people you wouldn't expect to be supportive, you know, sort of the gossip people, come off as, rising to the situation. That's a little unusual.
It's a book very much about community and the idea of community, because I think the main character, she likes it. She lives in a small town. She feels that she's part of it, but she really is kind of holding herself back. She likes to watch, but she doesn't want to be watched.
Right.
And I do have, I'd say, a nuanced way of thinking about gossip, because, you know, it gets a bad rap, but it's often how people communicate about each other. And this gossip character says to Lee, she says, well, yes, everyone in town is talking about you, but they're not all saying something bad.
Right.
So sometimes it's just a way of expressing that people are in need or people are going through a difficult time.
Gossip and compassion are not necessarily mutually exclusive.
Exactly.
Now our protagonist in the story, Lee, she comes from a very dysfunctional, somewhat emotionally vacant mother. And she's bound and determined not to repeat that in her own family. Now, that's easier said than done, don't you think? Do you ever find yourself repeating behavior patterns of someone that you said, I swore I would never do this?
I think this happens to a lot of people. I was a social worker before I started writing, and I saw that again and again, you know, in all kinds of situations where parents were messing up, you know, a variety of ways, and it turns out their parents had done the same thing. And, you know, I admire Lee so much because she's tried so hard to do everything exactly the opposite, but sometimes in that very attempt, I think you can actually end up repeating it, or to a lesser extent maybe.
Now, being creative and writing a book is an entirely different animal from publishing a book and promoting a book. Do you have any advice for aspiring authors out there?
Well, let's see. I did not have trouble actually getting the agent and getting the publisher, but I spent 10 years working on my first book, and I went to grad school, I applied for fellowships, and I worked and I rewrote it. So I guess my advice would be work really hard, take criticism, think about it, make it better, and you have to actually finish something. You know, I think a lot of people, the difference between a novelist and maybe a wannabe novelist is sometimes just getting it done. You know, that's the hard part.
This book, a great book, it's just out in paperback now, so you are busy promoting this, but I assume you're working on something new as well?
I am. I'm almost done with my third book.
Oh, and can you tell us anything about it?
It is about a 20-year-old college student narrating her parents' horrific divorce. They're in the middle of a very nasty, mean divorce. And so her mother is free-falling into poverty. Her father's very angry. And so she's narrating the story, but it's really about the entire family.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you have a website or some way that people can keep in touch with you? Or
I do. It's www.lauramoriarty.net or therestofherlife.com.
Anything else you want people to know out there? Any parting words for your fans?
That I love it when people write to me on my website, you know, especially if they say they do like the book. That's really, really encouraging and nice to hear. And plus, it's just always good to hear a response, because it's writing a novel and even having it published, it's sort of like throwing a rock off a cliff that's so high that you never hear it fall. So it is very nice to hear what people think about it, because I do put a lot of effort.
Well, again, it's a great book. The Rest of Her Life, Laura Moriarty, now available in paperback. Check it out. Thank you, Laura.